This is Morgan Freeman. If you enjoy listening to The Edge, support them by subscribing to The Edge on iTunes, Stitcher, and you can listen through the iHeartRadio app. Get busy listening.
This is The Edge.
Edge-show.com.
Edge lubricates as it lathers.
Edge-show.com.
Listen to the foam side, then listen to the edge side.
Edge-show.com.
Foam, edge.
Edge-show.com.
This is The Edge.
Hi, this is Mark Thompson. Welcome to The Edge. Today, a veterinarian who is an expert witness in a controversial court case right now involving a woman who was bringing water to pigs that were being trucked to slaughter. But that's only one sliver of the conversation we're going to have with her. It's just a wide-ranging conversation with our guest, Dr. Armaiti May. We'll start with the Fast 15, as we always do. A quick shot of Michael Shore, our political expert, who will update the presidential races and beyond. Thanks for being here on The Edge.
This is The Edge.
It's the Fast 15 with Michael Shore, political analyst and otherwise.
Thank you.
Oh, come on.
Your audiences are always so good, Mark.
They are polite and they're gracious, but they legitimately love you.
But it always seems to be at the same level of love. They never whoop it up, and they're never really tepid either.
They're not a whoop-it-up crowd.
No.
They're very restrained.
No, very, very consistent.
Yeah, but the thing that I like about them is you can count on them.
Yeah, you can, but it's a different audience every week, and it's still, the consistency is remarkable.
Word travels fast.
It does.
We're going to get to the politics, which is Michael Shore's area of expertise. But as always, we'd like to blend in something from life generally. And I saw something, because as the world of ordering things online and brick and mortar going away in favor of online retail, as that all begins to change, I saw this piece about Wal-Mart. Now, Wal-Mart, as we all know, just owns the world, but they are brick and mortar oriented, even though they're trying to establish an online presence like Amazon.
They're trying to get to be click and mortar, as they say. Mark.
Okay, well, good. That's very good. They are going to do something to transform the way online grocery shopping works, and it's not delivery.
I can't imagine how. I mean, it's like IV. Really.
Right. So here's what they're going to do.
Can we guess?
Yeah, please go ahead.
The only thing I think is that they would have your profile of groceries that you would create. They would drive it to a certain place, and everyone would go sort of pick their groceries up at a convenient spot to the neighborhood.
In a way, you're right. That convenient place is Walmart.
Oh.
There are many Walmart stores. They're
Right.
going to use their ubiquity to their advantage. They're going to allow you to order online the way you would on Amazon or the way you would on Walmart. They do have an
Right.
online presence that I mentioned. And you will go to Walmart. They will have your groceries waiting for you.
In the very back of the store, so you have to walk through every aisle to get there.
You never have to get out of your car.
Wow.
They bring it out to your car. So here's the key. They're talking about groceries, that is to say produce, like things, consumable food. Now, the pushback on that is, well, I don't want somebody else picking out the cantaloupes that I eat. I don't want somebody else picking out the lettuce.
It's funny, because the first thing I thought of when you said produce was, honestly, and I don't even eat a lot of it, but I don't want someone to pick the cantaloupe.
Well, no, the reason you think cantaloupe is because you think you got to press on
Right,
them and
right.
you've got to evaluate it yourself. Yeah. And these people, A, may not know how to evaluate cantaloupes the way you do, and B, they're not as vested in the outcome as you are.
Well, that's the thing too, right? And they also don't know your banana calculus. Well, it's a little green, but by Wednesday it'll be perfect. They don't.
Right. And so here is what Walmart has done. This article was fascinating. It was talking about the fact that Walmart is training a whole new force of employees who will be able to evaluate produce perhaps in a more rigorous way than even we evaluate it when we go produce shopping. They're going to get the best produce for you. So when you go to the Walmart website and you order the cantaloupe, you've got a cantaloupe team out there that's going to get you the best cantaloupe there is.
Right.
All of this stuff's going to be loaded into a bag, all of your order, and you're just going to go into the parking lot at Walmart, and again, a team member will bring it out to you.
Right.
This is revolutionary, and here's why it's realizing such great success. because more of these people who have more and more of these mothers and parents who are tugging around these kids and they've got them in car seats, and they're saying this shaves an hour off of my day. I don't have to load the kids out of the car, get them into the stroller that I now take into the Walmart and go grocery shopping, then they go out, etc., load them back in the car. It's a game changer for them.
That's interesting. I mean, if you buy that, I mean, I guess that's what they're banking on, that it's a game changer. I don't know yet that enough people of any generation yet, or certainly a parental generation, or maybe they're starting to be young parents, but I just that really want somebody else doing their grocery picking for them. And I think that, but I do think that the staples and those sorts of things, that makes a lot of sense. I still don't know about meat, produce, and chicken and the things that we examine when we shop.
Kroger and Giant Food are also touting pickup services, apparently, and even Amazon is said to be considering opening brick and mortar locations.
Yeah.
With grocery pickup capabilities.
I think this is brilliant. I mean, listen, I grew up in New York City. In New York City, we would call the grocery store and they would deliver our groceries. So it's no different than that. I mean, it's the same thing. Somebody else at Butterfield Market, which is where we went, Butterfield, they would, pick your cantaloupe and you'd have cantaloupe. And I don't remember anyone in my house saying, God, this cantaloupe is awful. So I think to that extent, it probably will be adopted pretty quickly, and I think it will likely be successful. And
I guess the grocery world, this business of cantaloupes, is pretty big business. Grocery business overall accounts for 56% of U.S. sales at Walmart.
Wow.
Walmart's become this place where you get groceries and a lot of other stuff.
Right.
So if they can solve this grocery problem, or if they can help make grocery shopping easier, it's going to make a huge difference to their bottom line.
That's true. And then there'll be more competition. If they find that it's successful, Target's going to get into groceries. I mean, they are to a certain extent, but they're going to get into it heavy.
They went from 5 markets to 80 markets with this Walmart thing. So it's
and
really
these markets are sort of throughout the South and Midwest, I'm guessing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think Tennessee, Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee, which is a suburb of Nashville, is one of the examples I was reading about. Anyway, so look for it at a Walmart near you.
Which there isn't.
You're the only one. Yeah. It's funny that there isn't a Walmart
really close to where we are.
And,
people, they fought it. Inglewood, California fought putting a Walmart in.
That's right.
So
they argued that Walmart would be bad for ma and pa and local businesses.
Exactly. And that they're a place that doesn't need low-paying jobs. They're a place that needs high-paying jobs. Walmart said you need jobs, and I don't know how that was resolved, but Walmart was probably right. But, yeah.
The second presidential debate just concluded, and political analyst Michael Shore, you saw the ugliness that ramped up to this debate. I mean, it included the tape that has Donald Trump talking about women in this edgy way. Right. By the way, I've been party to some conversations about women that are pretty unbridled.
Yeah.
I've never had a conversation like that one. I really haven't.
I haven't either. I mean, I've recounted things that I've done or listened to people recount things like that. I've never seen a beautiful woman been with 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys and had any of them say anything close to resembling what Donald Trump said and what Billy Bush encouraged. So I was kind of astonished by it. As I said, as I tweeted also, I mean, that the only I played hockey my whole life, and the only locker room conversations I've ever had are about why we lost. So it's
well, you didn't grab the other team by the pee, obviously.
Right? Obviously we didn't do that. But yeah, no, it was, and at this point, it's been oversaid and everything. But it was unlistened to-able and offensive, and also I think not surprising. I mean, I think it was just an airing of what a lot of people think.
You mean it's what people think about Trump?
Yeah. I mean, it was just the actuality of what we presumed was the way his mind worked. Another airing of the things that he says all the time, where he judges a group of people in a certain way. I think he did it in the debate last night, in subtle and overt ways. The ways he talks about Muslims, the way he talked about women, obviously with this. an African-American man stood up and asked a question, which I didn't think was a very good question because they were 20 miles from Ferguson, Missouri, and he didn't ask anything sort of detailed. He just sort of asked about how can you make life better. And Trump went into inner cities 4 times in Chicago as if this person was from an inner city and everybody who's black is from the inner city and that's all they care about. Well, guess what? There are black Americans who care about the environment. There are black Americans who care about health care. And there are black Americans who do care about, what's happening 20 miles away in Ferguson. So I think that's the guy. That's Donald Trump. And I wasn't surprised by it. It was amazing to hear, but I wasn't surprised by it. And I'm sure my guess is, Mark, we could make a bet on it. I mean, I think other tapes are going to come out in the next 20 days that are going to show stuff that's as bad or worse.
The base is clearly unmoved by this.
I don't know. I don't know. The base, it depends on what you're talking about is the base. The Republican base, the Trump base, listen, I think that there are women in the South who came to the Trump candidacy because people like Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush were not available to them by the time the election happened, and they will vote the party. They will follow along. That's what a lot of Southern people do. I think that's the same case for moderate Republicans in the Northeast as well. I don't think that those people stay. I think they flee. I think those people leave. I think it's why you see other states in play, and you will on election day because of this. So I think that he was holding on to some people by fraying threads, and those threads for a lot of them were broken the other day.
When you talk about, and we've mentioned with you before, this down ballot thing, the other races that are under the Republican umbrella, why are they, review for us again, why are they affected so dramatically? I read after this, all these races are now in play. Right. You just sort of alluded to it as well. Why does the top of the ticket influence so much what's happening down ticket? Because I get it. This guy's loathsome. I don't agree with him. Right. But that doesn't affect who I'm going to vote for Senate.
Well, it does in that it affects whether some people are going to vote. And in this case, a lot of people are not going to come out and vote. And some of these Republican candidates need every vote that they can get. I look to 2 specifically. Joe Heck, the congressman from Nevada, who's running for the Senate seat being left open by Harry Reid's retirement. And in New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte running for re-election. I think this was particularly devastating to both of them, more so for Ayotte, because, first of all, she's running against a somewhat popular Democratic female governor in New Hampshire. It's a tight race anyway, so anything she loses hurts her. Also, it's an endorsement thing. Kelly Ayotte did not go against Donald Trump. She did not stand up to him trying to sort of toe that line. I don't envy her because it's a tough thing to do to go against the standard bearer of the party. But to answer your question, popular and energetic candidates have what are called coattails in politics. So people hang on to their coattails and they succeed or they fall with them. So at a certain point, candidates start grabbing onto those coattails because this person is so popular, as a lot of people did to Barack Obama. We've seen it happen at different times to different presidents. Some presidents have had coattails, some haven't. Bill Clinton in '96 had some coattails, but it was a funny time because it was coming out of, I don't want to get too wonky, but it was coming out of a midterm election where he lost a lot of seats as well. But Donald Trump now has people fleeing him because of the things that he said. So if people are fleeing and they have already endorsed, they now have to recalculate whether or not to support him, and they have to also get people out to vote, which is very hard to do if you have a group of people that aren't energized. A lot of it has to do with that. A lot of it has to do with wanting to adopt the platform of the party and the nominee, and if you stray from that, you piss other Republicans off as well, who might not support you.
Michael Schor, thank you. Michael Schor, everybody. Come on.
Thank you.
Michael
Thanks,
Schor.
everyone. No, really. Thank you so much.
And now Dr. Armaiti May. What an interesting person she is. She's a veterinarian, graduated Berkeley and the University of California, Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, which is a well-respected school in the world of veterinary medicine. She is also trained in veterinary acupuncture. She's volunteered in spaying and neuter services to disadvantaged communities locally and abroad. She's gone to Guatemala and Nicaragua doing this. She has her certification in animal chiropractic. She's innovating and changing the world of veterinary medicine through her activism. Plus, Dr. Armaiti May is a key expert witness in an ongoing controversial trial of a woman who provided water to some pigs that were being led to slaughter. She'll take us inside that trial as well. Dr. Armaiti May on The Edge.
This is The Edge.
We welcome Dr. Armaiti May to the broadcast. Thank you. Come on, we have a doctor. How about a little bit, please? All right. The name Armaiti, what is that from?
It comes from Zoroastrianism, which is my religion. It means devotion to God.
Wow. I knew there'd be a good answer, Heather.
That is not what I was expecting her to say at all.
Now, I don't mean to get off topic before we're even on topic, but what is that? The religion again is?
Zoroastrianism, the ancient monotheistic faith that originated in ancient Persia around 7000 BC. It teaches good thoughts, good words, and good deeds.
Wait a second. I'm in. How have I not heard of this?
How did that not catch on? There's no killing people over your God or anything like that?
No.
Oh, that's why it didn't catch on. Wow. So did you, when you were a kid, did they practice that in the home?
My mom raised me Zoroastrian, and I had my Nojit when I was 10 years old. That's the initiation ceremony into Zoroastrianism.
Now that's where you kill somebody over your
face? No, it's just learning the prayers in Avesta, which is the prayer language related to Sanskrit, and the priest helps you as you transition to the phase where you kind of take responsibility for your actions and get invested with the Sudra and the Kasti, which are the undergarments that are religious undergarments that are designed to protect the wearer from evil and help him or her make good decisions.
So do you still wear the sacred undergarments?
I do, yes.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Can we see them?
Okay.
Well, wait a minute.
Are you, really? We can?
Well,
I think that's sort of inappropriate. Wow, you really do wear them.
Wait,
Can we get a snapshot?
Yeah.
Heather, take a snapshot.
Oh, God.
It's
You don't have to show.
salacious.
No, it's not. This is interesting. Now, Josh.
It's just the Sudras, the cotton.
Let me get a picture.
Well, no, okay, sorry. But Josh is used to being the smartest guy in the room, so I'm going to turn to Josh on this question.
All right.
Yes.
Josh, that religious undergarment thing was picked up by the Mormons and I assume a lot of other faiths?
Well, Judaism has, Orthodox Jews will wear a similar garment with what seems to be similar. The ties seem to be part of the garment.
Huh.
And it's very much about the braided strings essentially that go from the corners of the garment is in Judaism. That's the tallis,
Yeah.
But people will wear the tallis underneath their clothes if they're
Yeah, this is really cool.
Well, that even sounds like a sort of a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, right? What she was explaining.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, clearly. Yeah, no, that's when you do when you're 10 years old.
Some people have it done when they're younger, some older, but that's when I had mine done. So.
Do people have opulent versions of that ceremony?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So it's like a bar mitzvah, like, and get out of over the top.
It can. I mean, mine wasn't all that fancy. There were some family members invited and food and celebration, but it wasn't like extraordinary. I mean,
right.
And is there still a thriving?
You sound disappointed, Armaiti. You feel your parents didn't step up for your Zoroastrian?
No, it's all good.
Is there still a Zoroastrian community in Iran that exists? Still?
There is. I've never been to Iran. I've been to India, but the Zoroastrian population has declined over the years. There are only about 110,000 Zoroastrians worldwide because there have been various persecutions, including by the Arab Muslims around 600 AD. They persecuted the Zoroastrians and destroyed a lot of their texts and caused some to die and other bad things to happen. So a lot of Zoroastrians fled to India to seek religious asylum, and they became known as the Parsis. And those Parsis have flourished in India. My mom was born in India, and she's a Parsi.
Okay.
Her parents emigrated to the United States when she was a young girl.
So Parsi became a sect of Zoroastrianism?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then the Iranis who are still in Iran have developed different customs or may have lost some of the customs that were originally in place due to the persecution.
Right.
That's really interesting. I didn't expect that we'd talk about it. It's very, very cool.
Is that just the top undergarment, or do you have pants too?
Just the top.
Okay. I wasn't going to ask to see your pants. I was just curious.
I'm astounded that Heather asked to see your undergarments. She's never asked to see anybody else's undergarments.
It just, you know what? And I sensed it, and I was right. It was very, very cool.
Yeah.
But in general, when someone describes their undergarments, the polite thing to say is, "Can I see them?" is not. It's not the first thing you say.
Kidding me? Just out.
I wouldn't think we'd need to review that, but apparently we do. So your world is a really interesting one, Armaiti May. Dr. Armaiti May is a doctor, a veterinary doctor. You're working here in Southern California. First of all, one of the things that distinguishes your practice right away is that you go to people's homes.
Yes, I do. I'm a house call veterinarian. It allows me to provide care in the comfort of the animal's home so they don't have to become stressed in traveling to the vet office, and I can see them in their natural environment. It's also less stressful for the guardian of the animal to not have to go fight through traffic to get to the clinic.
All of us with pets have been to the vet. Two things are happening there. A, you're stressing like crazy because you're nervous for your animal. B, your animal is nervous like crazy because it's this environment and there's barking and it's crazy and all of these smells. So the two things are anxiety that both of you have, meaning your animal and you, and also, as you say, you're not seeing as a vet that animal in its natural environment. So I have to tell you a bunch of things that are happening, but of course, he's not doing them here at the office because he's scared.
Right. Yeah, the dogs and cats often put on kind of a false impression of their true nature at home because their adrenaline's running high, and so things can become masked that are actually going on.
Yeah, like our dogs their heart rates get way unnatural when we go to the vet.
They go really high, and blood pressure goes up.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
They've got blue coat fever, as they
white
call
coat.
it. White coat
Yeah, right.
That business you do, the world of vets is an interesting one because you cover cats and dogs mostly. Do you see any sort of exotic pets once in a while, like birds I would consider sort of exotic, but I see more and more people with birds.
Not as many. I do advocacy work for birds, chickens especially, and turkeys with my volunteer work with Mercy for Animals and other animal advocacy organizations in which I review undercover investigations and I write expert reports about what's going on those farms. And in some cases, there's actually in all the cases I've seen, there's been egregious cruelty that's been documented. And in some cases, that has been successfully prosecuted and convictions have been made. But as far as clinical practice, I refer to avian veterinarians.
We'll get to the animal advocacy and some of the stuff that you have referred to in a second. But I'm just curious what the most common sort of problems are that people have who have dogs, cats, and what do you actually see the most in your practice?
I would say skin problems are one of the most common things I see. Skin rashes, allergies, secondary infections like ear infections that happen a lot because of underlying allergies and or water getting in the ear, especially dogs that go swimming, or they may go to the groomer and the groomer neglects to keep the water out of the ears when they're bathing the dog. That the dog ends up getting an ear infection. So I try to advise clients about preventing those sorts of issues by getting to the root of it and making sure they're maintaining their pet's well-being. Also, dental issues are very common. Badly maintained dental health can result in all kinds of problems, whether it's obviously tooth infection, tooth loss, but also the bacteria can get into the bloodstream and affect the heart, kidneys, and liver and cause other problems later down the road. So it's important as a preventative measure to brush the teeth if the pet will allow that, which isn't always feasible. But there are things you can add to the water, like there's an additive you can order from healthymouth.com, but in the drinking water it helps prevent tartar from building up.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
That's very cool. Wow.
Yeah. And then I also offer non-anesthesia teeth cleanings at the home. I do give sedation to the animals, but it's a reversible sedative protocol. It's very safe, and a lot of pets have benefited from that.
That's a big deal because if they put your animal under, which a lot of them do for the teeth cleaning, once the animal's under, it's sometimes hard to bring them back. So the kind that Armaiti's talking about that she does, it's reversible, meaning, we can...
More like a propofol.
Right.
Yeah, I use a different drug when I'm doing the reversible method at the home, but I also do use propofol when I have them induced for anesthesia at the clinic, and that is a short-acting anesthetic, which is safer. I still do use the gas anesthesia to help maintain them, and of course they're breathing in oxygen along with the isoflurane gas anesthesia, and they have an IV catheter in to help maintain blood pressure and give them fluids to keep them safely maintained under anesthesia. If that is necessary, we have to do it, then we do it. I mean, if they have to have a tooth extracted, they have to be fully anesthetized, but if they don't need any extractions, then we can do the cleaning with just sedation.
So do you do solely home visits?
Primarily home visits, but I do have access to clinics where I can do more involved procedures, surgeries like spays, neuters, mass removals, dental procedures, and x-rays too. Yeah.
Did vets start out, in the beginning of time, did they start out always going to the home?
I think in the past, especially with large animals and even today, like horses and cows and other bigger animals, they have to come to them in many cases, especially if they're sick. It's hard to transport a horse.
Right.
And just try getting a cow into a kennel.
I feel like just like doctors and humans, I feel like back in the day, that's how you did it. And then we went far, far away from that. So it's just nice to...
It's kind of coming full circle now. It's becoming more appreciated, and more people are going into that, it seems.
We unfortunately had to euthanize our very old previous dog, and we had someone come to the house to do it, and it was an amazing godsend to do instead of having the trauma of both, the self-haunting trauma of I'm taking him to his death.
Right, absolutely.
As well as just the trauma of he was in a horrible place at the time.
Yeah. I do offer at-home euthanasia. It comes up fairly often, and the animals.
I recommend to anyone going through that it's one less notch of pain you have to go through.
Right. Absolutely.
Your pets are at home. They're passing on at a place
Surrounded
they
by
know.
those they love. Yeah.
It's really what you'd want for yourself and for anyone who is a human being. You'd want them to not have to pass away in a hospital. But at least a human being can understand what the hospital is. These innocent creatures do not, and they are frightened, and it's horrible. It's the greatest gift that you can do it at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My Larry died with me looking into his eyes
So sad.
and on his bed at home. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I don't mean to bum everybody out.
I'm sure you'll find a way to bring it back up.
There's a lot of sadness in this world of being a doctor for animals, being a veterinarian. There's a lot of sadness. You are doing these home euthanizations regularly. I suppose what keeps you in the game is knowing that you're doing such a great thing.
Yes, it's a good feeling to be able to provide a merciful ending for an animal so that animal doesn't have to suffer unnecessarily. On the other hand, it can be emotionally taxing, and I've done a lot, and also dealing with the emotions of the people who are affected by the situation, can take its toll over time. But I think it's important to have balance and seek recreation outside of that to balance it out, and I do that to some degree. It's always a juggling act, but it's also rewarding to be able to do something meaningful for someone else and find that, okay, I could make a difference there, and so that definitely gives it purpose.
And there must be animals now that you've sort of taken from litter to grave, sort of.
There are, yeah. So that is also very touching to see them go through that whole life cycle and be with the guardian that whole time and notice their changes. And it's nice to be able to be there for them.
The other burden that you bear of the same sort, where you're seeing this pain and trying to alleviate this pain, is that you are very active in this world of animals on farms and in situations that are quite stressful.
Mm-hmm.
You're an activist, an animal activist, and these are situations, as you suggested, that you're asked to look at and evaluate for the appropriate way to treat an animal in these situations that are filled with, really, it's an inappropriate situation.
Right.
And yet you're being called upon, was this even beyond what is already inappropriate?
Right.
So you're really dealing with a lot.
It's intense. It's really overwhelming at times to face what animals go through and watch these videos. But I feel compelled to, because if I can make a difference for them, inspire people to make changes, whether it's going vegan or reducing their intake of animal products or just doing something to make a positive change in the world, then it's worthwhile.
I think it's one of the weirdest contradictions, the fact that so many vets, these veterinarians who are charged with the care of animals, are consuming animals.
Yeah.
And you can say, okay, well, that gets to a philosophical thing, Mark, and I don't mean to always get us to that place. But what I do mean to say, even beyond the basic philosophy of consuming animals for food and all the rest, the process of learning to be a vet actually involves some heinous things that are associated with animals, doesn't it?
It can. However, that's slowly changing for the better, and I'm founding an organization, the Veterinary Association for the Protection of Animals, whose aim is to reform teaching methods in veterinary schools to make them more humane so that students who want to become veterinarians can fulfill their dreams of doing so without having to perform unethical practices in the process. When I was in vet school, there were some things going on that I didn't agree with, but we had a surgery training wet lab I organized with some other students in which the bodies of deceased animals who had died from natural causes or were euthanized for humane medical reasons were donated for a willed body donation program and then utilized in a surgery training wet lab in which students performed practice surgeries and then learned important skills in the process. Now, this is not a replacement of live animal surgery. There's, of course, much room for other aspects of surgical training, including spay-neuter, which can be done in multiple settings that is very much needed, and those are survival surgeries, and that's not a surgery that one learns right off the bat, just doing it once and check it off the list kind of thing. You have to do it many times to really get good at it. And when I was in vet school, one of the things I did was to participate in these rural area veterinary services trips where I went to Native American reservations. I traveled to Guatemala for 2 weeks in a rural area, and I did surgeries, spays and neuters, castrations on horses also, and got a lot of really good experience that then enabled me to be more confident as a surgeon. Even starting out, I was able to have done many more spays and neuters than had I not sought out that experience. I also volunteered with feral cat trap, neuter, return programs, doing neuters and spays in those settings. So it was providing a service that was needed, and it was also helping me at the same time.
I just caught onto the feral cat thing. You capture them, spay them, and then release them again?
Right. So there are various versions of that type of program. And here in the Los Angeles area, we have a group called Fix Nation, and I volunteer every couple months. They have a program called Catnippers, where a bunch of volunteers gather together. They have trapped cats in these overnight traps, and then they sedate them. They have a whole line of volunteers helping out, getting them ready for surgery. And then a few veterinarians, including myself, are there in the surgery suite performing spays and neuters. Then once they're awoken, they're released back. And some of them have colonies they live in, and they have caretakers looking after them. Most of them are truly feral, meaning you can't handle them.
That's my question, is that you release them simply because that's the only way they can live a happy life.
They do tip their ears so that they can tell they've been altered, so they don't have to re-trap them unnecessarily.
Okay.
So you can tell from a distance, okay, that cat has already been spayed or neutered.
Gotcha.
But that makes a huge dent in the cat population.
It does. It's very important.
You mentioned castration. I just want to follow up on the castration. Is it true they castrate cows on farms? They just castrate them. They just...
Pigs and cows are castrated without anesthetics on farms. It's atrocious. Just abominable.
They literally just rip the testicles off, or how does that work?
I think it's like
There's an emasculator, it's called. It's like a crushing device, and it crushes the stalk that connects the testicles to the inside where the testicles descend from. And
the vas deferens?
Yeah.
Is he right about that?
Right, yeah.
Josh is scary, huh?
Yeah. Very good.
How did you know?
I'm not overwhelmed with the academic terms. But...
Josh, are you ready to scrub down and maybe try one?
I mean,
I'd like to start with a hamster, perhaps.
I've done some bunny neuters. And
there's a vast difference between a hamster castration and
away from the world of dogs and cats and pets, you're involved in this trial that is going on in Canada.
Yes.
There is a truck full of pigs, and it stopped at a light, I guess. And a woman offered these pigs water from the outside, because they can stick their snouts through the holes in this truck.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they don't provide for the comfort of the animals being trucked wherever, whether they're horses, whether they're cows, whether they're pigs. They don't give a shit. And the reason they don't is because these are just things, commodities for food. They don't taste any better if they are getting water than they do if they're never getting water for the 12-hour trip or whatever it may be. That's just an aside. So that's the reason that they don't worry about it. Because it's just an extra thing you have to worry about then. You're saying I got to water them too? Hey, we're going to be killing them in 12 hours. What the hell? That's the way it's viewed. So this woman goes up to the truck and through the holes offers these pigs, who are literally being taken to their slaughter, water because she knows that they haven't had water. The driver of the truck becomes angry that she's doing this, which, by the way, I don't understand. She's not messing with your truck, like taking the wheels off your truck or throwing paint at your truck or any of that stuff.
Right.
But for whatever reason, he's doesn't want the woman near the truck, and he gets into a big back and forth on. You can see the video. The video is actually online. Cut to a court trial, a court case. They're going to bring a case against this woman for criminal mischief.
It's outrageous.
6 months in jail, $5,000 fine if she's convicted. And at that trial is our guest, Armaiti May. You were an expert witness.
Yes.
Now, what was going down and how did you fit into things?
It was a really intense trial. It's still going on. Anita Kreins, who's the defendant, will be taking the stand October 3rd.
How old is she?
She's in her early 40s, I believe.
Okay.
And she's an activist, a vegan. She's had this group, Toronto Pig Save, for about 6 years, which she started. And they pay reverence. They basically have a bearing witness of these pigs and other animals as they're heading to slaughter, allow them to have some water. They're thirsty. I mean, this particular day, which was over a year ago, last summer, was exceedingly hot. It was 79 degrees Fahrenheit, but it was very humid. So the heat index was actually a lot higher. So it was in the high 80s in terms of how it felt. Those pigs were breathing very rapidly, about 180 breaths a minute I counted in the video I saw, which is about 10 times higher than the high end of the normal range for a respiratory rate for a pig at rest. They were, in some cases, foaming at the mouth, clearly overheated, stressed, in distress. She was providing water to alleviate their distress, and she was charged with criminal mischief. Completely a reversal of our core values of showing compassion to other animals, regardless of whether someone's a vegetarian or not. Clearly, people can appreciate that these animals feel pain. They have discomfort. They were certainly in discomfort in this instance. And by offering the water, she was allowing that discomfort to be alleviated to some degree. And yet, to be charged with criminal mischief, it's such a backward situation. It's like compassion should not be a crime.
Well, before you said that she was part of Toronto Pig Save, I was wondering why they would bring a charge against her at all. But it sounds like probably because this is sort of what they do, right? If they follow these trucks that are going to slaughter and they sort of ambush them with compassion, but ambush them nonetheless, and maybe perhaps keep them from moving forward or, stopping their trek.
So the prosecution side was arguing, for one, they were concerned about the safety issue surrounding people sticking their hands in the truck and or contamination of their stock or their property, as they call pigs, because animals under the law are considered property, although that is changing and evolving, and people are recognizing they are sentient beings who have the capacity to suffer and feel pain and pleasure. But in this situation, the pigs are considered owned by the pig ranch that's transporting them to the slaughter facility, which was Fearman's. And their concern is that there was some contaminant introduced into the water that was given. But that's really a baseless accusation, because even in the video, which Mark referenced, the truck driver asked her, how do I know it's water? What do you got in the water? And she's like, if you want to test it, here's a sample, test it. But he didn't take her up on that offer. And it's clearly in the video that she offered to have him take a sample if he wanted to. So I think it's a very disingenuous claim for them to make, that there's some contaminant in the water. And furthermore, if someone is an animal rights activist and they care about animals, why on earth would they be putting any contaminants into the water? It makes no sense.
Of course not.
It's absolutely
a
a vendetta.
non-starter.
Yeah, it's absolutely a vendetta against someone hurting their PR.
To Heather's point, they're not really making an effort. I think they've crossed that bridge before to little effect, where you're stopping the truck or trying to prevent the truck. They know the truck's going there. They're trying to just provide some last bit of comfort to these creatures, I guess.
But in just, perhaps, I don't mean get in front of them and stop them, but even putting your hand in, and, I don't think the guy's going to take off if this woman had her. I was trying to figure out why they would bring a charge of criminal.
Yeah, so actually at the trial, what came up was that there had been a mention of their livelihood being messed with that hadn't come to the front story accusation, but the attorney who was doing this case pro bono for Anita Kreins, both attorneys are taking the case on pro bono, and they mentioned in their cross-examination of the witnesses, the pig farmer and the truck driver were both taking the stand before I took the stand when I went up there, and they made a mention of that the police had been told they were actually concerned about their livelihood being interfered with, and that was more of the primary motivation for launching this criminal mischief charge.
Yeah, I'm sure they just don't want people around. Look, This is our job, to truck the pigs to slaughter. That's what we're doing. Leave us alone.
And they're filming it, obviously, and
Right.
you know, and using it.
One of the videos I saw was really even worse than the one in question regarding this case, where the pigs were dying of heat exhaustion on their way to slaughter, and they're writhing in pain, convulsing, like pretty much on the way to being dead before they even got to the slaughterhouse.
I mean, it seems like, I know just from projects you've worked on, that Mark, that you know, that there's nothing that a livestock producer hates more than a camera.
Yeah, it's true. In fact, there are a lot of what are called ag-gag laws all around the country. They're called ag-gag because agriculture has gagged the ability of activists and others to film what's going on, or photograph or record even in any way what's going on, not just inside slaughterhouses, but inside these farms. All I would say to that is, if nothing bad's going on, I would think you'd want to put cameras everywhere.
Right.
I mean, evil grows in the dark.
Right.
There's no reason for these ag-gag laws unless something horrible is going on. And this just in, it's more horrible than you could ever imagine. So anyway, that you are brought into this case as they litigate this whole thing out. So what are the prospects and what's likely to happen?
I'm very hopeful that Anita will be acquitted. I think that people are realizing this case is so absurd. It's like none other in history. And I'm certainly optimistic that that will be the case. But in the process, a lot of awareness is being raised about pig farming, how detrimental it is to the environment, to people's health, to, of course, the animals' well-being. And the vegan message is being heard simply by the fact that this case is being heard. And so that is a silver lining. And I hope that, you know, more people think about where their food comes from.
And your expert testimony was to say that the pigs were in fact suffering.
Exactly. That's where my testimony was focused entirely on what the pigs were enduring. They were overheated, in distress, in need of water, and she was offering water, which is...
It feels like that trial in Inherit the Wind, the Scopes monkey trial. It feels as though it's one of those trials, and that was a trial involving...
It was involving the teaching of evolution in school. And
right. Versus the Bible's description of the earth being created in 7 days and on the seventh day rested.
And it was a massive political football with William Jennings Bryan and Clarence Darrow fighting it out, and all these people backing them. And
Wasn't the seventh day he rested?
Yeah, seventh day he rested, I think.
Which day was light?
One. That'd be day one.
Yeah. Light was one. Because evil
let there be
grows
light so I can do some shit day two.
Yeah.
Is really how it works. But the other thing is, I mean, it also trial-wise, it reminds me of the trial that Oprah was on, too.
With the Cattlemen's Association
Yes.
suing her after she said, that stops me cold from eating another burger, when she
Right.
was informed that the cows were being fed to cows by
Right.
Howard Lyman. That was unbelievable. Yeah.
And the worst thing that came out of that trial was Dr. Phil. he was the jury selection.
Is that right? I
Yes.
didn't realize that.
That's where she met Dr. Phil.
No way. I did not know that. Does she still not eat red meat? Do we know? Or beef?
I'm not sure. She's not vegan, but she's done a 21-day vegan Kickstart program with her staff. She did that with Kathy Freston about 3-4 years ago, I believe. And so I think maybe she's heading in that direction. Hopefully, we'll see.
We're doing Mindful Mondays, everyone!
That's right. Meatless Mondays, vegan Mondays, hopefully, the start.
Well, give us a snapshot then of the state of things. I know you're very active in all of these different ways. One of the things you said that's encouraging is that more vets are pushing back on what is a college environment, veterinary college environment, that forces them to take these perfectly healthy animals. That's what happens. You know, they take these animals from the shelter, dogs and cats. These are people's strays sometimes that ran away during like a fireworks display.
Yeah.
They take them and they operate on them, and then they're euthanized after that.
Well, there are different sources for dogs in anatomy lab and surgical training lab and a vet school environment. At the newest vet school of the United States, which is the Western University College of Veterinary Medicine, they have what's called a Reverence for Life philosophy, and they have a willed body donation program where people can donate remains of deceased animals who are humanely euthanized. And this allows the vet students to learn anatomy without having to rely on these unethical means of obtaining the cadavers. So when I do at-home euthanasias, I offer clients the option, if they want to, they can choose to donate their deceased animal to this program. And a fair number of them do. Not everyone, of course, it's up to them. It's entirely their choice. But if they want to help with this program, I think it's a great idea.
Heather's asking would I do it. I would, I think. It was not offered to me at the end. I was inconsolable when I've euthanized my animals, and I'm sure Josh, similarly emotional. It's sort of hard to imagine you're parting with this creature to begin with, but offered the chance to do something maybe to better the universe of whatever.
Yeah, the option to me was cremation, so I would say yes. It doesn't sound any less gruesome.
Yeah, I also went for cremation, and now the ashes sit there in my closet, in this, because you want to.
I didn't get mine back.
Oh, you didn't? I mean, I don't know. You just don't want to part with this creature. And by the way, this is something that I noted, and tell me, listeners and Josh, and I felt there was a moment, and Heather, and whatever your name is. No, I just didn't know if you'd been through this, Heather, so I didn't want to necessarily.
Okay. By the way, you do have the option of getting the ashes back when donating to the vet school. It takes 2 years because they have to use the body, but eventually.
Okay. The 2 years thing, though, that's a little bit, it's like, that's a weird thing to have come. Oh, shit, that's right.
Yeah.
Right when you just got over it.
But a reminder.
They ripped the Band-Aid.
Josh, your phone's going off. Oh, it's just the alarm to remind me that my dog's remains, I can pick them up now.
Gosh.
It's been 2 years. The thing that I struggled with, and I think those struggle with, who have had an animal that is clearly moving toward the end, is you wonder how much of the last weeks are for you and how much of the last weeks are for the animal.
Yeah.
Well, I think obviously you're the veterinarian.
I've seen both extremes. I've seen cases where animals have been left to languish and really suffer, and sometimes they end up passing on their own before someone can even intervene in time because the person has such a hard time making that decision, or in some cases they don't believe in it for whatever reason. And it's sad to see an animal suffer unnecessarily. On the other hand, I've seen cases where it's been done too soon, too, in which cases there could have been a treatment provided that could have helped the animal. Maybe it was more of a convenience issue where it was a nuisance concern about urination on the rug or different issues that were causing a problem, barking, vocalizing at night, whatever, which could be alleviated or somehow dealt with in a way that didn't involve taking the animal's life. But I think in most cases, people do think through what's going on and they take in consideration the animal's discomfort, more than just their own personal feelings of attachment to the animal. But you're absolutely right. It's good to think about that and make sure that one is mindful of the animal's well-being as the primary priority.
How much of veterinary training is spent on ethics and those issues?
We do take classes on veterinary medical ethics, and that was a very intense class. I was always raising my hand and
taking on the whole class for you, Armaiti?
I think I might
You're all out of order. You're all out of order.
Anyway, yeah, there were some things that really.
She's Trump. Wrong. Wrong.
It was interesting, but yeah, some of my classmates hated the class, and it was a lot of interesting, heated discussions that we had, and got people thinking. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point, right? Just start by getting people thinking.
Yeah, it sounds as though, and that's what I was saying before, that the process of thinking about these creatures, which have been viewed as property and been viewed as a pet, like a goldfish in a bowl. I mean, it really starts everywhere. Even that goldfish in a bowl that we look at, it's just a goldfish in a bowl. Well, it's a real thing.
No, yeah, and I'm so much more cognizant. I was not a vegetarian when Mark and I started this show. And in the process of doing this show and people we've had on, I have become one, and eventually
Fantastic.
Will be vegan.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. But it's shocking to me how my viewpoint has so significantly changed on a goldfish in a bowl. It's everything. Mm-hmm. It's just a completely different world through my eyes now.
Yeah, it's funny. Say this, and then we'll wrap up. But it's so great to have Armaiti in here, and I'm going to get all of your information and put it on our website so that people can contact you, and hopefully. I have one more question that's going to make you uncomfortable, but I'm going to ask it anyway in a second. But I don't know
how you get more uncomfortable than asking to see it.
That's true. Maybe not as uncomfortable as you've been today. But On Facebook, when somebody has a picture of themselves holding a fish, I won't friend them.
Yeah.
I won't accept their friend. And if they have a picture of themselves holding a gun,
Yeah.
I won't friend them. And by the way, if you're a fisher person or a gun person, please understand, please don't come after me with your nets and your guns. I'm just saying, I don't know if that's the first impression that I want of you. You know, I understand that that's something that you do, but I just wish you wouldn't put it right out there right away.
Yeah.
You know.
And if you keep a fish barrel at your house, you know that Mark isn't coming because bad things are going to happen.
Well, fish are sentient creatures, and they do feel pain. So
and they feel fear. They feel pain.
Absolutely. Some of them mate for life,
Now, the question I was going to ask you has nothing to do with animal rights and all that. It has to do with...
much more uncomfortable.
It has to do...
Is it a money question? It's a money question. Mark always has a money question.
Heather is so good at... I ramp up, and I try to ramp up slightly differently each time, but she always gets me right before I get there. And, of course, Heather is right. It's a money question. Vets are expensive. What is the way that we should all treat and care for these creatures that we love so much and somehow make it affordable enough that all of us can do it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And it is a challenge in veterinary medicine that care can be hard to afford. And I think having the right preparations in place, if one can get pet insurance, that can be a really good idea in many cases to have some safeguard in place in the event of an emergency, which is very expensive. Bills can be thousands of dollars sometimes for surgeries.
Tell me.
If an animal's hit by a car, God forbid, that can be very expensive to treat. There are broken bones. They need several surgeries, specialist intervention. So obviously keeping a proper gate and fencing if you have a dog, and keeping your cat indoors to prevent these kinds of problems from happening to begin with, and keeping away toxic plants. I mean, some plants can be very toxic to the kidneys or the liver. Lilies are toxic to cats. Ethylene glycol is also very kidney toxic. That's the antifreeze. You can find it in the garage, or it leaks sometimes in the streets. So another reason why an outdoor animal is more at risk for those problems.
And that stuff tastes sweet, so the animals actually lick it up.
Yeah,
It's
although
poison.
there have been attempts to make it
Mark's
less
tried it.
tasty, adding some bitter flavorings and stuff.
But it's still good.
It's still good, apparently.
They can't ruin it yet.
So, Ben, sometimes, and I see it because I'm active with the shelter also, people drop off animals that they can't afford, literally, to treat anymore. They say, well, the vet wants $4,000 and we don't have $4,000,
It's
so
very
it's here
sad.
or the county shelter.
Well, I had a case years ago when I was first starting out in practice, and this German Shepherd came to me who had been hit by a car. He ran out of the gate. He was unneutered, very irresponsible person. Didn't keep him indoors, or at least in the property. So they didn't have any money, and he had a jaw fracture, and I was not going to euthanize this dog. He's a healthy dog other than the jaw fracture. So I decided to sign him over to the hospital, and I did a fundraising campaign. My parents put in some money. I got my friends and random strangers even to donate some money. We raised about $1,500, and I talked to this surgeon. He was willing to do the surgery for less than he normally did, given the situation. We got him his jaw fixed. He got it neutered, and then 2 weeks later, I found a home for him. His name was Bobby.
That's terrific. That's terrific.
Is Sam Simon's foundation still doing the monthly surgeries? Or were they monthly?
I think they were doing them weekly.
Weekly, okay.
Yeah, they had it might have been daily. They had trucks going through some of the tougher neighborhoods in L.A. and Southern California, and they're doing low-cost they were doing free spay and neuters.
They were doing free surgery.
And surgery, was it also?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. If your dog needed surgery, I think it was one day a month or something that they would pay for. Yeah, whatever. I just didn't know if that was still.
Yeah, and
going
I don't know if it is or not, but the Sam Simon Foundation is worth a look to see if they still are.
And there are other nonprofit groups that provide other services like checkups and vaccines. I volunteer with Angel Hunts for the Homeless, which meets the last Sunday of every month in North Hollywood at Chandler Park, and we offer services to homeless pets like basic checkups. We can't do surgeries in that. That scene is not equipped. We don't have a clinic space, but we can at least do some care. And there's also the Hope Veterinary Clinic for the Homeless, which had lost its space they had, but they're trying to find a new location. So that meets the first Sunday of the month.
Dr. Armaiti May, I feel as though you have a lot of stuff that other people may want to get a hold of. I'm talking about information about the different groups you're part of, right?
Right.
Heather wants to see the other undergarments that you have. Where can people find information on you? Do you have a central website? Or
Veganvet.net is my website.
Veganvet.net. And what about your organization? Is it VAPA or
VAPA, Veterinary Association for the Protection of Animals, and our website is vapavets.org.
I really encourage everybody to, and this is not easy for me to say, and Heather will back me up on this, before even you pledge money to our website, which you should be doing to help us sustain this program, but you should pledge money to vapavets.org. Yeah. That is a great organization. Armaiti May, the good doctor, is behind it, and she does amazing work. A more passionate, informed advocate you will not meet. You will not meet. You will
nor
not
will
meet.
you make.
Nor
Probably,
will you
let's
make.
Be honest.
And you will certainly not mate with one. She is my favorite Zoroastrian.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Armaiti May, thank you. All the information on all the websites we mentioned on our website, edge-show.com. Thanks, Armaiti May.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Armaiti May, everybody.
Are you using the Amazon link?
We have it, but I don't mention it. I don't push it enough.
Well, what's your website?
It's edge-show.com. Edge-show.com.
Well, if you enjoy listening to this program, and I see no reason you shouldn't, because, you know, it's not like I'm on all the time. You go to edge-show.com,
and
you'll see Amazon links, and you do all your Amazon shopping via that web address,
edge-show.com.
And there's a little cookie, and they'll credit Mark, and he'll get a tiny percentage of your shopping spree.
But it won't change your Amazon experience one little bit.
And it won't be more expensive.
Right.
It'll actually cut into Amazon's profits.
True. Without cutting into your bottom line.
So in a way, you're helping Main Street.
Oh, that's a really great...
By hurting Amazon, you're taking money out of Jeff Bezos' pocket and putting it into Mark Thompson's.
It's like taking back one piece of brick and a little bit of mortar.
Uh-huh.
Well, we appreciate any support that anyone shows us, but you mention it and you do it seamlessly on your show, and I don't mention it enough.
Well, it's hard to ask for things.
Yeah, exactly.
You know who told me that? Bill Cosby.
You're listening to The Edge. Join us on the web at edge-show.com.